Hey guys, producer Pat here, jumping in at the top to let you know we recorded this podcast early Monday afternoon. Carl is away at state baseball, and obviously since then we've had some major sports news happen. Jason Tatum unfortunately tears his ACL. We've seen some big games in the NBA playoffs, and the Dallas Mavericks come away with the number one overall pick in the NBA draft lottery, potentially going to take Cooper Flag. Everybody's guessing now. If you listen to the podcast, you know I like to put on my tinfoil hat from time to time. And I promise you, I'm getting that thing polished up because I believe, like many, that the NBA has once again rigged the draft lottery. And we'll talk about all this and more on next week's episode when Carl gets back in town. But for now, enjoy the show. Let's get into it.
Back for a post-Mother's Day take after take. Carl Prather, producer Pat. What you do for your woman, man, for Mother's Day, man? Was she off the clock? You should have took her off the clock. No. I expect that she didn't do anything this whole weekend. You took care of all those lovely babies of yours. Your in-law, everybody was taken care of. You did your thing. And let her do her feet just like it. She should have had her feet just crossed just like that for the whole weekend. Did that happen?
She was working. So North Alabama Medical Center did not, they put her on there. But, you know, people got to work sometimes. But I did take care of the kids. I do. I'm on daddy duty when mommy is working on the weekends.
That's what's up.
And they love it because they get to get ice cream and eat pizza. And
so you wilding out. You let kids, they doing whatever. They run for right now. Over you.
For right now, yeah, they do.
Does your lovely bride, does she feel some type of way that they run roughshod over you?
I don't know if she actually knows, so... Oh. There we go. Hey.
Welcome. Ice cream for breakfast.
It's goldfish and pizza and candy for breakfast.
Ooh-wee. Well, glad I let that cat out of the bag.
But we did get her, we bought her a bunch of candles. Bath & Body Works was buy 3, get 3. She loves candles. So the kids and I, Saturday, picked out candles. And we had the 3 of us unanimously agree on which candles. So they were part of the process. And we got 6 candles that she really liked.
That's a really good gift. Here's my thing. You know you're getting older, i.e. 42-year-old older, when you appreciate candles.
Candles are fantastic.
They're
underrated.
I don't know, but I probably didn't think 22-year-old Carl wasn't like, oh man, candles are what? No, I just never thought about it because like, what was I? Man, I was out here, you know, mattress on the floor.
Watch it now.
Mattress on the floor. You know, mattress on the floor, you know, in dorm room, you know, just
completely by yourself, by the way. Nobody else.
Yeah.
There.
You're right.
If Lindsay's listening to this, nobody else.
But she knows I was a wreck before she knew me. I was a pure wreck. But yeah, shout out to you for the candles, man. I like a candle. I like candles. I appreciate them. There's nothing like a good smelling candle in your home or your kitchen or something like that. That's when because I wasn't thinking about any of that back 20 years ago. But here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are. Mom's Day. That's fantastic. Shout out to my mom. Mama, love you. Talk to her. And then, you know, you have so many other ladies in your life or, you know, family members and friends and stuff that are moms and stuff. You want to send them texts. You try to get to everybody. I actually texted someone today, happy belated Mother's Day. There's so many, you have so many folks to be around. And, but no, it was good. Kind of bittersweet, not to put this on a somber note, but kind of bittersweet because my grandmother passed away on New Year's Eve. She was 96. Full of life, amazing life. So it was my mom's first time. And I know there's so many people that, you know, it was a tough day. Father's Day is a tough day. But, you know, it was her first one with that. So we shed some tears for a little bit. But I mean, we had a heck of a celebration for her in January. But no, man, it was good. Lindsay didn't do anything. She sent me, let me see this. Fellas, can I do the Love Doctor?
You can, the second appearance from the Love Doctor since we've had video.
Fellas, let me tell y'all something. When you get about 10, you know, a decade out past the marriage, you know, walked the aisle, you know, they start seeing these subliminal messages. They just see they'll see some subliminal messages letting you know what they want to do. She sent me a short, an IG short, and there's this comedian. I have to send it to you. There's this comedian that was telling all the guys, this is what she really wants for Mother's Day, to be left alone. There's your need anything else. Just leave silence. Me and old Blakey Blake, we hung out the whole weekend. We went everywhere. We did stuff. She did her own thing, read a book, huge reader. novels, huge. I mean, huge. I used to be that way. That is one of my biggest things I promised myself this summer in our quote unquote off season that I'm going to do. I'm going to read. There's so many like sports books and other books that I want to read that I'm going to like go through and read this summer. But she wouldn't be left alone. When I say off the clock, she was off the clock. Nothing. I did everything.
Pat
all on the back.
Pat
Put all on the back. Yeah, put all on the back. Yep, she did. So happy Mother's Day to all the wonderful, lovely, lovely mothers, aunties, and everybody else that have stood in the gap for us. Crazy kids, because we crazy as the days are long. But it was a good Mother's Day for sure. We last week discussed kind of like an off-season kind of, non-traditional for maybe fans that are not big fans of professional sports. But the NBA's been great. NHL's been crazy good. If you love playoff hockey. If you love baseball, I mean, you're kind of like I guess the big story for that is just Paul, but I call him Paul Bunyan. Aaron Judge has been out of his mind. You seen that?
He's been pretty crazy.
What's going on?
There's that story.
What else going on?
And there's also Paul Skeens and whether Pittsburgh should trade him right now, what they're going to do. They just fired their manager. Obviously, Paul Skeens, probably the best pitcher in the major leagues, if not in the top 3.
Are you a big baseball aficionado? Like, do you know, like, in it?
I have to wait. I'm not in it, no. And I have to wait until basketball season is kind of completely finished before I'll start diving in. And even then, I'll really only dive into like the NL East.
When he got drafted, obviously, because he was the first overall pick, correct?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay, so
he had to be a high pick.
He was a high pick, right? I just always wonder when you see guys that are so dominant this early on, when it's not, for example, I don't think anyone, when he transferred to LSU, Paul Skeens was surefire, bonafide. But I just want to know who saw this at LSU. You know, he was amazing at LSU, right? But I'm just saying, like, once he got into the league to be that quick, because you remember it was kind of like a meteoric rise from like the short amount of time that he was in the minors, and they called him up, and then it was forget about it. I mean, he is dominant.
He's dominant, and I think it's going to be bad for baseball as a whole if every single time one of these small market teams like a Pittsburgh or whomever, every time they get a star, the immediate storyline around them is, well, when are they going to get traded? Or when are they going to hit the open market? When are they going to be a Yankee or a Red Sox or a Dodger or something like that? That's a terrible look for Major League Baseball.
You just brought something in my head. I was just thinking about that. You know, they're saying, what do you do with him? Man, what kind of money is he going to get?
A lot. And also, another thing with baseball, this is what hurts it. They don't have a salary cap the way the NFL does. The NFL has benefited so much from having a hard salary cap because it makes the league more competitive overall. You going into this offseason, realistically, there's probably 14 to 18 NFL teams that can look at themselves and say, hey, if everything kind of goes right for us, we got a shot to be in the mix to win it all.
Yeah, isn't that maybe as sort of a novelty what makes baseball, because it's been that way for forever, no salary cap, that makes it maybe stand alone? Or, and what I mean by that is we know that there's no salary cap, so it's you know, obviously we see, you know, the Yankees of the world, the Red Sox, the big markets have the most money to be able to spend and don't care. But has it become, in your opinion, to a detriment to the entire league for competitive balance? Or do you like that because it's not like every single year we're just seeing the Yankees or the Red Sox. They've had some terrible years too.
Sure.
You know, now they've won a ton. Don't get me wrong. We know that. But, you know, we've seen the Miami Marlins like blow their entire franchise up twice and win some World Series. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of not like the Orioles have come on the last couple of years. Here are the Diamondbacks coming up with their young talent. So it's not like, even though you have the most money, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're still going to win relative to if. I don't know if that would be the case if, let's say, there was no salary cap in the NFL. Because I believe that if there were no salary cap, I think some of your upper tier market, TV market franchises would really dominate. But I just think it's unique with baseball because it's a catch-22. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people would love to have the salary cap. But the other flip side of that is these teams are still not winning even with these large payrolls.
True, but you look at, I believe, just the television ratings going down for baseball. You look at just the fact that, think about when we were younger, the type of cultural gravitational force that Major League Baseball had. I mean, I remember when Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire were duking it out in the summer. I was 9 years old, and
Incredible.
like that's a vivid sports memory of mine. I don't have any from Major League Baseball since I have gotten older, and I don't think this younger generation is connecting with baseball in that kind of way. Now, there are a lot of reasons for that. The fact that like baseball is really hard to play at a youth level. You know, you have to have a lot of equipment, things like that. Whereas like basketball, you can just kind of pick up and go anywhere. Football, same kind of way. You can throw a football in the backyard. But I believe if I was Rob Manfred in Major League Baseball, I would be looking at any kind of ways possible to put my product back in sort of the cultural zeitgeist that is American culture, because I think it's lost almost all its place.
No question. I've always said baseball could be back at the forefront of a lot of people's, just the general public, casual sports fans' minds if you started from a grassroots level. Now, I do believe, and anyone that's listening to this on our podcast, correct me if I'm wrong, I just think that it would be advantageous to have more of a, and I know a lot of Major League Baseball stars around the country that have played the game or trying to do it at a grassroots level, but urban areas, I think it's very important to rebrand the game of baseball and why it can be very exciting. I also believe that Major League Baseball as a whole needs to continue to kind of from a distance and, not any kind of harsh or rash decisions as far as the gameplay, but we've seen the pitcher's clock, being implemented. Games are going by faster, but to speed it up a little bit more, you know what I mean? I also believe that your stars and stuff can be marketed a little bit better. No one knows, if Mike Trout walks down the street here in Huntsville, Alabama, no one's going to know who he is. I could get, outside of even Aaron Judge. I believe if Aaron Judge walked down the street, a lot of people was like, man, you're tall, but like you must play a sport, and wouldn't know who he was.
They'd be like, do you play, what basketball team you play for?
Correct. So that's my biggest thing. I think that if baseball is ever going to get back to what it was in the 80s and in the 90s and, the home run onslaught with Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire and Barry Bonds, I think that you have to cultivate it from a standpoint of the grassroots level, the urban areas, and make it more accessible just for all children to be able to fall in love with the game. And then more importantly, like market your game toward kids so they can fall in love and hold on to something. That's why the NBA is so popular. Everybody keeps talking about Michael Jordan and how he kind of took the league to another level. A lot of times the reason why the NBA is so popular is because like kids, black, white, any type of nationality or race, ethnicity, like you can identify with a player. You can identify with WNBA players now. Caitlin Clark has transformed this league. Asia Wilsons of the world, and this new like the marketability of these stars, young ladies and stuff, and young men are seeing these stars and just fall in love with them. And I think that's the one thing I wish Major League Baseball would do a better job of in all North American sports. Give a voice to those that would love to play your sport, but maybe not know a lot about it, and they could just fall in love with it, especially if it's accessible to young people.
And I think you have to have your stars buy in as well, in the same way that like the WNBA stars, the Caitlin Clarks of the world, the Angel Reese, Cameron Brinks, they have bought into the fact that they are the next generation of young NBA stars, WNBA stars. And I don't see a lot of that when I look at baseball. I know Mookie Betts has a podcast that's really popular, and I love Mookie Betts, but like the Freddie Freemans of the world, the Mike Trouts, like they have to be willing, some of those guys at that caliber of a player need to be willing to buy into the fact that you are not just a baseball player, you're a celebrity and a star in the same
That's
right.
why it's very important for me. And I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole because there's no need to go down this rabbit hole. We are both Atlanta Braves fans. Love the Braves. I'm the first to act like I'm watching 162 games. Or I'm watching more than half the games. I'm not. I just fell in love with the Braves.
Another reason it's hard to watch all the games, by the way, that has another big thing to do
162
with
games, bro. And then where can you find them?
Well, yeah, they're off YouTube TV, they're off Hulu. These regional sports networks are killing Major League Baseball, and they need to get out of them.
That's why I love that our station and our company has regionalized with the Atlanta Braves. We have accessibility for you to be able to watch those, and I think that's going to kind of be, in my opinion, just a model moving forward. If you're a television entity from the local TV standpoint, be able to grab some of these games and be able to show them and broadcast them on your stations, especially in your different types of regions. You're in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle. You're in the southwestern part of the state, the Texas rain. But, with the media rights and stuff and the flexibility that Major League Baseball has with those TV rights deals and right of shares, like I think that's a great business model moving forward for people to have more access. And maybe some young boy, some young girl will see that and be like, man, just fall in love with the game because you're being able to see it. But going back to stars being marketed really quick before we move on. That's why it is so important for me. And I just shake my head. I've shook my head in Major League Baseball in the past. Patrick, you have some guys that got some like for real bring some excitement to the game. You look at Fernando Tatis and Robert Acuna and our Dominican players and stuff and people that want to show a little personality at the plate. You have this. However you feel about America's quote unquote pastime and how this game should be laid out on the field and ethics or whatever you may want to call it when you're dealing with like on-field performance. Those things are exciting. Different color bats and bat flips when you hit a home run, being able to run down the baselines and trot or acknowledge. Those things bring eyeballs to the game. And it's all within the confines of the game. I just think there are some stars that could be elevated to that if Major League Baseball would want to do that. I always had the sense, this is just personal opinion, I've always just had the sense that Major League Baseball has always wanted to just hold on to these historical, foundational type ideology instead of continue to try to evolve. It's like they evolved from the standpoint of some rule changes here and there and things that have happened over the last 40 years. But the other part about that is like, even though with those changes, it's been like with restraint. Like, it's like, I don't really want to get rid of these, but okay. You know what I mean? This is my opinion. I just think there's a lot of things with Major League Baseball from a casual standpoint. I'm not a diehard guy. I'm going to be the first to say that. But just from a casual, to get more eyeballs on it, to catch someone's eye, to be able to fall in love with the game again.
It reminds me a lot of like hip hop, the hip hop, kind of the old guard, not liking some of the little Uzi Verts of the world and some of the other guys that are coming up, but not realizing like those are the guys that are going to get the younger generation into hip hop, and you kind of need to embrace that too. I think the NFL does a magnificent job of this.
It's incredible.
The NFL constantly reminds people of the history of the game, and you have these guys like Tom Brady that talk about a Johnny Unitas or a Bart Starr with such kind of reverence. Bill Belichick also as well. It's way different than the way that like there's a huge debate in the NBA right now.
Yep.
The NBA stars not liking the way that the Charles Barkleys and the Shaqs of the world portray their current day product, and I think, not to get back to the NFL, but like that's another reason why the NFL is number one. Like they're the king in everything.
No, there's no chance. It's the NFL, NBA, and college football. College football has a window here to create an initiative to make you a big three, revenue generating now relative to players being able to be paid. But the NFL, the one thing, think about all of the guys in the National Football League that have played in that league and how much reverence they have for guys of the past. How many times have you ever heard someone disrespecting a former NFL player? And what I mean by disrespecting, like this guy could play, there's a mutual amount of respect. I've told you this with the NBA. I don't personally think it's the kind of the older guard or guys that have played before the new guys. I just think the new guys, this is my opinion, they get so quick to rush to judgment about because someone is trying to critique your game. It's okay, man. Like that the older guard and the guys that have played before you see the amazing talent and acumen you have on the basketball court. There's nothing wrong with being critiqued to the standpoint of, we have so much reverence for you and see how much ability you have. We just want you, we're from the outside looking in, want you to elevate yourself to surpass what we got going on, to continue to elevate the league like you all have. I've laid claim to this, and this is my personal opinion. I just don't understand why so many of our current product that is so great in the NBA, why the I don't know if it's sensitivity, but just up in arms, this conflict with the old guard and new guard. When I don't believe the old guard, there's no old guard hating on the new guys. We're just the old guard guys, or the guys that have played in the past, they're just wanting these guys to continue to push the league forward. Like there never was in the 90s and late 80s and the 90s growing up. The old guard, there was no guys. They understood it. They wanted you to work hard to be the man, but like what was pushing the league forward, man. It's like you can't, for some reason, like there can't be a general critique with guys without them getting up in arms. You're an old school guy. You were playing against plumbers, man. Like
the firemen and plumbers thing, like
it kills me.
You never hear anyone talk about that way about Jim Brown
ever.
And Jim Brown played in the exact same time that in the 60s.
Ever, man. And it goes back to from a whole like wide scope. Respect from players from today, old and young. Like it's just this reverence. And the older players, man, than the NFL or the all pros, the pro bowlers, or just the veterans that were just incredibly good. Everybody's good. You play pro sports. I've said that all the time. But like the reference that the young guys are like, wow, like this guy's like showing me some love or DMing me and being like, man, you can do this better, do this if you need any help. Or even the young guys reaching out to those older guys to be like, ask for pointers. And it's really cool. And then from a wider scope, as you mentioned, the marketability of the NFL. How many commercials have you seen during the NFL football season and stuff that you have the Justin Jeffersons of the world and the Jamar Chases? They're in these commercials with all the young kids and the high school kids at 707, or they're doing these Nike and Adidas commercials and man, Under Armour, man, like the NFL has done an amazing job to like seamlessly mesh today with yesterday and the future. And it is really cool to see. And that's the very reason why it's a standalone, Patrick. There's no other sport that can touch the NFL.
It's not even sports. It is the king of entertainment in this country.
No question.
It's big
in North America. The only thing that's bigger in the world is soccer from a global sport. That's it. But the National Football League and the inroads that they're slowly doing with Mexico City and Europe, you know that in the next 20 years we're going to have a franchise over in Europe. They're trying to make this a global deal, much like to what soccer is and the beautiful game is now. So yeah, they've done a fantastic job, and it's just really, really cool to see. You just want all your sports, even if you don't like it, if it's from a casual standpoint. I'm not a diehard. I don't know everything about hockey, but I enjoy watching, especially playoff hockey. And it's just really cool the way that sport has kind of rose from that, like slowly but surely. More people kind of, to me, talk more about hockey than they talk about Major League Baseball, man. And that's like, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just like where baseball was when you were a 9-year-old, couldn't wait to run home to see what Mark McGwire, what Sammy Sosa did, or
Chipper Jones,
Andrew
Jones.
Yeah, or Barry Bonds. They're ESPN breaking into coverage for his at-bats, him getting walked with the bases loaded because they didn't want to give up a grand slam. It was must-see television, man. And I hope that there's plenty enough stars that Major League Baseball can get back to that. It just, from a strategic standpoint, I'm just interested to see how they do that.
And you're going to have to let some of those old guard guys have to let the reins go.
Gotta let it go, man. Gotta let it go. I remember the last thing. I remember many moons ago, Colin Cowherd, I was listening to Sports Talk, and I remember, I think it was there was a franchise in the major leagues that a new Spider-Man movie was coming out. And they wanted to put the Spider-Man net on the bases. And people were going crazy. This is not part of the game. Man, have some fun. What harm is it to have to have a little kid be like, oh man, a 5-year-old or a 45-year-old that loves Spider-Man be like, man, that's pretty cool. They got the nets on the bases. What harm is it doing to anything?
Yeah.
That's just, we got to keep pushing it forward and move so that baseball can get back, for some people, back to where we've kind of grown and accustomed to. We have talked a lot about TV and media. Let's move to a little college football. So we were discussing a little bit earlier today. There's always hypotheticals and always things that we want to talk about when it comes to college football and teams and getting ready for this upcoming season. Transfer portal's over. We know that the rosters are what they are unless you add or subtract a couple players here or there. You kind of now start thinking about, relative to last year, you have no clue who's back, who's not, but just from a view of 50,000 feet before we kind of get closer and closer to the tarmac and the landing zone, teams that you're just excited to see from a coaching standpoint, program, if they're going to ascend, a step back, question marks that you have around. You were able to watch college football in its entirety from preseason so this is your first foray into a full offseason. You have an idea of teams that you've been able to watch. Are there any teams, in your opinion, that off the top of your head, you're just interested to see, intrigued to see how they start the year and what their year looks like relative to their program?
I think there's 3 in the SEC: Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee.
Okay.
For different reasons.
Okay.
Tennessee, obviously, for the fact the star quarterback is not there anymore. Yeah. Alabama, can Kalen DeBoer in his second year kind of get them back to the Saban-esque kind of levels? And then Auburn with Gus Malzahn is kind of the wild card for me, right? And then I think if you go over to the Big Ten, just seeing who emerges out of that conference, it's a 2-horse race really in college football between the SEC and the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. Oregon, Ohio State, are they going to be able to stay at the top? Can Penn State finally kind of break through? I think those are sort of the major stories. I think we talked about this dude 2 weeks ago, the Bill Belichick North Carolina saga, however it turns out. that the TMZ entertainment story of it is going to be a part. You know, it's going to be a part of college football season.
Will you tell? I want you to look in this camera. I want you to look in the camera. Will you tell the 2.5 people that listen to this podcast and the half a person that watches our videos in this early journey of this podcast? What did I tell you when he signed that contract? What did I say?
You said that Bill Belichick would not coach a single game at North Carolina.
Your confidence level relative to then and now is what?
I'm at about a 7 that I agree with you that he's not coaching anything.
He very well be coached, do the whole, but I just did not. The math wasn't mathing for me. If it does happen, we can come back, we can revisit, and I'll tell you and give you reasons why I thought from the jump that this was not going to happen, which is a myriad of reasons. But as crazy as this sounds, it's gotten so far away from football. We don't know, outside of Giovanni Lopez, you don't know. And here's the thing. You have to be a for real diehard college football fan or a fan of within this state or have some sort of education about Giovanni Lopez relative to being in North Alabama as a former James Clemens Jet high school standout here and played at South Alabama. You have to know something about him, because if you don't, the casual or medium fan of college football, you don't know. Can you name me one player in North Carolina? All you know is Bill Belichick and his lady. That's it, right? Which is a problem.
That's a big problem.
So, I don't know what that is. North Carolina and Bill Belichick are the least of the things that I'm even remotely thinking about. Will this work? I'm not even thinking about that. I'll just throw out a couple. You mentioned it, the aforementioned Penn State Nittany Lions. I think James Franklin is an outstanding coach. James Franklin has continued to show that he belongs in that A-B tier of coaches. It's really about him just winning or winning a national championship or another Big Ten championship. And you just look at the landscape of the Big Ten, as great talent-wise as Ohio State was a year ago, Patrick, you have to say to yourself, if Penn State is ever going to win the Big Ten, this would be the year to do it. Just do the check marks. Offensive line, I believe 1 or 2 of those guys, but I believe maybe all 5 of those gentlemen are back. Penn State fans reach out, comment to see. But with whatever one may feel about one Drew Rowler, he returns. They got some dogs back there running back. You would think that some of the wide receivers and stuff will continue to develop. We know the defense is going to be, has to be improved. When you pull Jim Knowles away from Ohio State and now at Penn State, everything is in line for them, you would think, to go ahead and finally win this league. So that is a big storyline for me in the Big Ten. I will say in the ACC, I want to know how dominant Clemson could potentially be this year. I was a fan of Clemson a year ago. You were a little shaky on Clemson. I would be utterly shocked if they don't win the league. And when I mean win the league, like win the league going away, like they may have this thing wrapped up in beginning of November. Because I just think the rest of the league maybe be playing for second. You still got to play the games and whatnot. Outside of Clemson, I am very intrigued with Louisville. I personally, I'm a Kentucky native. I know of Jeff Brom because I'm from the central part of the state, right outside of Louisville. I have always thought, when he was at Purdue, I think Jeff Brom is one of the 12, 13 best coaches in college football. And what he's doing at his alma mater, and me growing up watching him when I was a kid, man, they got an opportunity to do, USC's, transfer quarterback. He's there. Running back situation could be really, really good. I like Louisville to kind of maybe, if there's not a team not named Clemson that wins it, I like Louisville a lot. You would think that Miami may take a little bit of a step back, even with Carson Beck and stuff. But with the way that they've recruited, you would think that Mario Cristobal will maybe have them back still in the thick of things. Monster marquee game to start the year, Labor Day weekend. They're going to host Notre Dame. So that's going to be intriguing. In the SEC, Patrick, I don't know why I'm so not nonchalant, but kind of ho-hum on Alabama. And the reason why I say that is just because outside of that first game, They have to make their trek to Florida State. I think Florida State's going to be playing very desperate in just the first week of the year, relative to a 2-10 year from a season ago. So many changes. I don't know. I would be shocked if they don't make the playoff. I just would be. I don't see a scenario that they don't. But the quarterback, you arguably have one of the 2 or 3 best receivers in all of college football, not named Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams. Bernard is back. The roster is still good enough. I would surmise to believe that. Another year in said systems. Ryan Grubb is back in the fold. We'll know more. Listen, fall camp is different than what it was in years past, where you had a full month. At this point, after spring, you kind of have an idea of like who's going to be your starters, who are at least in the 2 deep. Now you're just going to tweak some things here and there before you get ready for week 0 or week 1. But I don't know, man. I'm not as the question marks regarding Alabama. Now, after week 1, I get to be like, oh, okay, that. But I just already assumed. You know, I told you, Patrick, I think this game is going to be a 1-score game, one way or another. Alabama wins or Florida State, pulls it off. But I think even if they lose that game, which I've said this as well, man, like Kalen DeBoer is going to get eviscerated the first game because everybody's going to think the sky is falling. But then what if they reeled off 11?
Yeah.
Then it's like,
Is there any quarterback in the nation that you think that probably has more to prove or more to kind of gain than maybe Ty Simpson, or maybe the team will only go so far as he takes them? Is that fair to say? Or
yeah. It's Oklahoma. Why am I blanking on Washington State's the transfer quarterback? My goodness, John Mateer. Thank you. Yeah, I think John Mateer has the capabilities. If you have a guy that could be a story of college football, I think John Mateer could have Oklahoma sitting in a situation where, quote unquote, no one sees Oklahoma coming out of the SEC. But if you kind of, once again, college football folks that love the game and watch these games, and it would not shock me. We discussed those odds last week. That's really good value for Oklahoma to win the SEC. I think they arguably may have the best defensive line in college football, but the SEC rather. I just think that guy with the receivers, if healthy, could do a lot of serious damage there as far as scoring points. I think the defense is going to be really good. And I think you're going to have to pack your lunch if you're the front 5 for any offensive line going up against that group in waves. I am just excited to see what that looks like. I just really am. And I think John Mateer, from a regional standpoint, teams that we cover on a day-to-day basis in the Southeastern Conference, I don't know why. You see it at Oklahoma. You see it at Washington State. He transfers over. I just think he's dynamic as dynamic could be. I'm really excited to watch him. He may be, out of all of the quarterbacks in the league, he's the one that I'm really, really excited to watch to start in Norman. Listen, especially if they get off to a hot start. Man, that's a playoff type of team. So I'm excited about him. I will say Austin Simmons, just because you saw such a small sample size when he came into the Georgia game and how well he played just coming off the bench. So I would like to see Austin Simmons. He looks, from the X amount of snaps that he has, looks like he's the real deal. From a short, minute sample size. But I will go with John Mateer. I think John Mateer is the one guy that I'm extremely excited to watch at Oklahoma.
I think there's another storyline there too, is probably the carousel of quarterbacks. A lot of the NFL scouts have talked about this is going to be a very, very deep quarterback class. Mm-hmm. How do they end up kind of ranking themselves at the end of the season? Because you have guys like Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier, Drew Aller, a lot of people going in on Cade Klubnik, Clemson's quarterback. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of dudes who could potentially make themselves a lot of money come next offseason in the draft. Also, Carson Beck. If you would have done that 2 years ago, Carson Beck probably would have been thought of as the number 1 pick. Mm-hmm. And he ends up obviously not being that, coming back to school. So I think that is sort of another overarching story of the season, is going to be these quarterbacks in this Heisman. What will end up probably being the Heisman Trophy race.
Man, I know we talked about Mateer. I just have a sneaky suspicion Garrett Nussmeier is about to go nuclear. You know how I feel about him. You know how I feel about Brian Kelly, your favorite coach. I think he's
Sarcasm for people that are just listening.
I don't know. He has he feels.
We'll circle back around to it.
I know you will. You're gonna have a whole Moby Dick War and Peace novel. John Grisham.
Let's get him on. I wish we could get Brian Kelly on the podcast. Everything I've ever said about Brian Kelly, I would say to his face.
I know you would, and then it just would be left, and we go viral, and then we'd have all the Baton Rouge.
But that's what we want, right?
We don't want.
It's called Take After Take. This is supposed to be combative.
I love Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I love the people.
I like the city too.
But see,
the coach should just probably be in prison. That's all I'm saying.
You starting up some stuff. We in this beautiful conference room. We do not need all of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and folks in Thibodaux and folks from all these wonderful, beautiful, amazing parishes in Louisiana outside these doors looking for you. Because I'm like the 100 men in the gorilla. If I got to be in there, I'm gonna be 100 in the back. You on your own.
The great people of the state of Louisiana and Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas, I believe after this season, will come to the same conclusion that I have, which is Brian Kelly is severely overrated and does not deserve to be the head coach of any program in college football. And if you ask them, if you put true serum to these Baton Rouge fans, it's in the back of their mind. They know that I'm right. They're going to come to that same conclusion too. But time will tell, you know?
I think Nussmeier is going to have an amazing, amazing year. He may be throwing, I know everybody talks about Ryan Williams. He may be throwing to potential first team All SEC, first team All American. If this thing goes away, I think that it's going to go. In Anderson, I think they're going to be really good.
They're going to have a lot of talent to just turn around and lose 4 games again.
They're not losing 4 games. You want to look at their schedule? You want to look at it real quick? Let's look at it.
That's fine. It don't matter.
What you mean?
They had the number 2 pick in the NFL draft. They lost 4 games. Now Garrett Nussmeier's thought of being a high pick. They're going to lose 4 games.
Hold on. Would you like to add some context?
You're going to go into the
Would you like to add some context to them having the number 2 pick?
We've already done all this stuff.
Bro, did you?
We've already done all of it.
Historically bad defense.
I know. And who's responsible for hiring all the coaches that coach the defense?
Bro, it was his second. He was 24 months on the job. What? How about this?
We'll keep making excuses for Brian Kelly.
Hold on. We keep talking about all that. Year 1, whatever happens. Year 2, the man produced a Heisman Trophy winner.
In year 2. And they didn't make the playoff. They lost 4 games. Is it about a winning or what is it about?
I thought
we were about winning football games.
You ask any LSU fan. Is a program in better shape now than when it was 48 months ago?
Ask them in November. That's okay. That's okay. Cause see, you know the beauty thing about podcasts. See, we can just pull this schedule because I just want to know. I want to know in your hearts of hearts. See, I put you to. This is the same man. He done been wrong. He done been wrong about Will Levis. He was wrong. That was my heart.
That was
my
wrong.
heart. My heart was wrong.
What was your heart talking about the Lakers when I told you about this trade? How this one go down?
That was also my heart.
That was your heart.
I've been a fat kid before, and so I didn't like people body shaming Luka Doncic like you yourself did. So that's also my heart.
I ain't about shit. I just know Nico Harrison knew something that I went. Hold on, cause let me take this parade lap real quick. We're gonna come back to college football. When have you ever in your young life? How old are you? 25?
Yeah, sure.
We'll go for that. In your young life, have you ever in the National Basketball Association that you love this near to your heart? You ever seen a top 5 player just get traded in the middle of the night? Have you ever seen it happen in life?
It's rare. Very rare.
When that happens, don't you think there's a reason behind the reason why they're just trying to offload said all NBA player for his first 5 years of existence in the National Basketball Association?
Or they could be dumb. One or the other.
Who doing that? What? Nico Harrison had to go as said older. I would have traded one of the 8 best players in basketball. Here's why. It notice this. Go ahead and do it.
Well, and
I also want to ask you this question.
Okay.
One team that he was basically like an old mob movie, just going down the alley at night, brokering a deal down the alley, making some stuff shake. Why was it only just one team? He could have said, Luka Doncic, feelings, no feelings, how he feels is Luka Doncic is up for trade. Back channels telling all the other GMs Luka Doncic is on the table to be traded. You know why? Because they gonna say, what's wrong with Luka Doncic? No, don't worry about all that. That man had to keep this under secrecy and under privacy for that long to be able to make that happen. Now, everybody went crazy. Oh my gosh, the Lakers are a contender. And what world did anyone in their right mind that watches the NBA regularly thought that this team was a contender for what? Because they played good for 3 weeks? What are we doing? I think JJ Redick could be an amazing coach. I think he did an incredible job here in his first year on the job. I have an affinity for a team in Durham, North Carolina that he played for. So I got a lot of love for him. I love his tenacity. I love how he goes about his business. I love all. But with all that said, didn't I tell you they was going to lose in the first round? I told you they was going to get swept by Gentleman's Sweep. I laid it out perfectly for you. Guess what? They're going to be worse next year. They will be in the lottery next year. They're not making no playoffs with that guy. If you think that with this team, the way they're just constructed, they'll be worse. I'll go even another step. I saw the intranets told me with video evidence. JJ Redick, Rob Pelinka, your boy Luka, they all coming out of the restaurant. They got these big binders and stuff. How we know Luka gonna stay with the Lakers? He may be looking at me like, nah, it's a no for me, dog. I'm gonna get him out of here. He may go somewhere else.
It's possible.
I told you from the jump. The Mavericks, the dumbest. I said, okay, this was gonna make it even worse. Book it right now. This is healthy. I just said it's healthy. They'll be one of the top 4 seeds in the NBA in the West next year.
Well, they have a superstar that's made of glass, so they won't be healthy.
That's okay. Book it. There's an old wrestling tag team back when I was growing up called the Skyscrapers. Old Dangerous Dan Smiley, old Barry Windham, Gafford, AD. What's my other big boy? My boy from Duke. Oh my gosh, she's on the tip of my tongue. I forgot it. Lively, Derek Lively. I don't know what Kyrie's gonna look like coming back. I just want to see him healthy. Cause I know they competed with me, you, that Dr. Pepper you got right there, this right here. That's what they had on the starting 5. And they was competing every night with all that said. It's gonna be amazing. And I want Nico to be petty. It's gonna be amazing. How amazing. You get to like 60 days into the next season. All these Maverick fans, oh man, we gave it. I want him to say, come to the games, but y'all stay in the same lane. Stay in the same lane you was in when you was out here when I made this move. Now y'all know why. I mean, I made next year, I got two pictures of Nico. I got one of him smiling, like very stoic and then smiling, and they hate it. We got another Mavericks fan in our group that despises when I do this. I went on that NBA tangent just to say, Nico Harrison will have the last laugh. Not the last laugh. Back to college football. I think the SEC this season, it will be the year of the quarterback. And I believe that we will look back this time in 2026 and we'll say, what an incredible year it was for teams that probably didn't have any business winning some of these games, winning these games because of said player under center. You just look at the league and you look at the transfers, you look at the guys that are there. This may be the best collection, and not just individual guys like 2 to 3. This may be the best collection of talent in the league that we've seen in a while, right? And we got rid of Nico Iamaleava because, obviously he transferred. But imagine if you threw him in there. You're going to have a lot of these teams that have a fighting chance to be able to be successful. We saw what Vanderbilt's quarterback did. Just put everybody on his back.
Yeah.
Mateer at Oklahoma. Lagway at Florida. Who am I? My goodness.
Sellers. Lenore Sellers.
Sellers at South Carolina. Taylor at Arkansas. Like, you could legitimately look at all 14 of those institutions and say, like, everybody's got a chance. And I think that's what it's going to be. It's going to be exciting to see. I would be shocked if more than half of the league doesn't bring a quarterback for one of the student athletes that we'll have an opportunity to speak with in the summer for SEC Media Days. But that's why I believe that if you come out of the Southeastern Conference this year, regardless of who you have to play and the rigors of trying to play a very tough schedule within the league, I think that if you are able to make the playoffs, you're going to say to yourself, I got a guy under center that I believe that can when the chips are down and things are not going, I can make something shake. I think Georgia may have a guy like that in his short amount of work that we saw in the playoff last year. That may be a thing. Yeah, I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see the quarterbacks in the Southeastern Conference.
I mean, maybe Auburn too. Little Jackson Arnold revenge tour,
and didn't even mention Jackson Arnold. And that is no disrespect to Jackson Arnold, because I generally like Jackson Arnold as a player. Throws one of the prettiest D balls you'll ever see in college football. We just want to, once again, just goes back to what we were discussing about Auburn. We just want to make the consistent play consistent. Make that routine. And Auburn does that. Look out. I have a hard time believing that you're not going to have multiple, forget 12 personnel, like it's 4 wide and let's go get it. And we're going to run this and go to warp speed and try to make something shake and score a lot of points and try to manufacture offense. So all of that is contingent on Jackson Arnold making, right decisions for the most part. And once again, it goes back to what I said last week. Even if you do make a mistake, understand, okay, that happens. Let's move on to the next one. Don't make one mistake turn into 7, right? That's the issue that you can run into. College football, players and coaches and athletes and stuff are too good. You can't make multiple mistakes in football games and think you're going to come away with a win. It's just not. It's not going to happen. So, the year of the quarterback for me, it's the Southeastern Conference this year. That's what I'm excited about.
And it's also, I think you're going to see the gulf sort of get bigger between the top tier programs and some of those middle tier programs. The talent, I believe, because of the transfer portal, NIL, is going to continue to just trickle to the top. And I think over the next few years in college football, you're going to see the haves and the have-nots.
Yeah.
And we're going to have some kind of conversation about what do we do with the have-nots, because they just cannot, they will not be able to compete with the big dogs in college football.
We'll end it with this. Speaking of, the have and have-nots and just the ever-changing landscape of college football, the multiple conference commissioners across the country met last week in New York. We discussed this off air before we discuss it now, that all are discussing, feasibility studies and possibilities of expanding the playoff yet again. Obviously, the first iteration was 4 teams. We moved to 8, and now could potentially move to 16. Forget we have the 12, but could move to 16. Your thoughts on a 16-team playoff? We have said this for months, and last year it's inevitable. We know it's going to happen. The question is it going to happen a couple of years, or is it going to happen after this season? I personally believe that it will. We will have that in 26-27 season.
Yeah, I mean, 16 teams. I mean, no one's going to say no to more money, right? And that's sort of the big thing, the driving force here. My big question with just the 16 is, again, I think people will like it, but it will not be crazy to say that there's 5 Big Ten teams in there, 5 to 7 SEC teams in there, 1 ACC team, 1 Big 12. You're just going to see the 16 just get filled up with more SEC and Big Ten teams.
Especially with the proposal from the Big Ten and the SEC and Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti basically housing more automatic qualifier, AQ qualifiers within their leagues to have more teams to be able to get in there. So I think it's great for the viability of college football and in the landscape of bringing more of the country into the game from that standpoint, and more teams and more rooting interest. And of course, the dollars and cents are the one that makes it, worthwhile. I just want, it's a great point. I was listening on the radio to Cole Kubelik and Greg McElroy earlier this morning. And I traditionally listen to them when I'm in the mornings working out and stuff. And he said something that just rang true to me. And I've always said this. College football fans are going to have to kind of continue to reimagine what the season and the way that you watch college football looks like in the landscape of the game, right? Because now you're going to start, as Greg eloquently stated, and Cole did the same. Now you're going to have to start thinking to yourself, forget the top 2 teams in the league. You're going to start looking at that middle part, 5, 6, 7, 8. and differentiating between them, because those are the guys that are going to be the ones that you're going to be looking at, because you know they're going to be the top 2 or 3 teams. You know they're automatically going to be in there, right? So then you got to try to look and see like who's on the quote unquote bubble, who's going to be the teams that are going to have to try to get one of those that said 3rd or said 4th bid within the league, and then those that are at large, like because if you think about 4 AQs for the SEC, let's just say 3 or 4 for the Big 10, 1 for the Big 12, 1 for a non-AQ, 1 for the Notre Dame, then you're starting to look at like, then you're really pushing it like, okay, we can lose 2 games. You start losing 3 and 4, then you put yourself in a bind. Also, the other part of that is too, Patrick, the schedule from a scheduling standpoint. Much like the guy said, I was listening to it this morning, which is very interesting. Do you continue to schedule hard non-conference contests and say, hey, if we win 1 or lose 1, or we lose 2, or at least we went out and played said teams, we won the rest of them? Or are you going to go out and continue to play teams that are like inferior to you?
I think you keep playing inferior teams. I think the playoff committee last year showed you there's not really any kind of incentive to play a hard schedule.
Is that sample size enough for you to warn, or will you need to see maybe this year and get an idea of as we head into the 2026, 2027 year and say, okay, I got 2 years of sample size to believe that? Or do you believe like this is enough? You need to go out and just play your conference schedule, because this season's going to jump to 9 conference games here eventually. And play your 9, that should be worth enough weight for you to be able to get in. And the other 2 teams that you play or 3 teams that you play who you've been playing and keep it moving. Your thoughts on that? I don't. How do you feel about, from that standpoint, the inferior is what you would rather do than go play people?
I mean, yeah, I think that's what coaches talk. I mean, I think that was the crux of my argument last year between Alabama and SMU. That's what it came down to me. And they put SMU in. Okay, cool. Well, then I'll play the Kennesaw States of the world. I won't go play a Wisconsin like I did last year. I won't schedule these types of things. Really what college football is coming down to, if you just draw this out to sort of its natural conclusion, we're talking about all these playoff teams, the SEC and the Big Ten are going to team up with each other. They are going to make their own national champion. Because if you look at the landscape of college football, the big programs, for the most part, are in the SEC and the Big Ten, and you have Notre Dame. If I'm the commissioner of these conferences, I have 16 teams in the SEC. I don't know how many the Big Ten has. I'm sure it's probably roughly close to that. Why would we just not expand our own conferences, and then just take our ball and go home and say, why am I giving money to the Big 12? Why am I giving money to the ACC? Like, I have the Alabama, the Georgias, the Tennessees of the world. We have the Michigans, the Ohio States, the Oregons. If you name the great sort of brands of college football, how many of those are in the SEC? How many of those are in the Big Ten? And how many of them are Notre Dame? I would say that probably the first dozen that you can name are in one of those conferences.
Man, I don't know. Well, no, I don't. I do know. I think in the next 15 years, I believe, I've strongly stated this, I believe the Big Ten and SEC are as they are as far as name and name only, but I think what you're going to have is that it's going to continue to move toward that NFL model. I've always envisioned that you're going to eventually have your 64 best, or you just a round number, whatever it may be. Any and all of the conferences that are willing to want to come up and play big boy football. But when I say big boy, from a financial, can you play and be in the game, right? I personally think you're going to have a 6 divisions I envision a 6 division conference landscape where it's an East, a West, whatever, you know what I mean? Those 3 divisions, and you can name it, the North and the South, whatever it may be. But you're basically, in long story short, you're going to have division winner for each. They can all be a conference. And then, so 6 Power 4, P6 conferences. You win your conference, you go to the playoff automatically. And then you have a couple of wild cards or whatever, much like the NFL, right? And then the winners of that conference championship with those 3 divisions, and the one with the other 3 divisions, you win, and then you have an ultimate national champion. Now, what does that do? That leaves out your non-P5 groups, right? And basically, in a nutshell, those guys, you're probably going to have a new national champion. And that's going to come. You're going to eventually have a national championship that's going to stand as honor because they just can't compete. And I think that's where it's going to go. I do think that the SEC and the Big Ten, I would hope to think this. I got to fit for just the way that the game is going, and someone like the Big 12 and the Pac-12 that's about to be reimagined. You're probably going to still kind of try to hold this together for the viability of college football, the ACC with their TV rights deals and stuff until those come up. You won't see any movement toward that until the 2030s because of the TV contractual deals and stuff that everyone has in place. And as long as these networks and stuff are continuing to try to, give money and hand out money, it's ideal for them to do just that. So I personally believe, I don't think we'll have that type of movement where we'll take our proverbial ball and go home if you're the Big Ten or SEC. But I do believe that eventually, once we kind of come up toward the end of the ACC and their TV deals, and unless they're able to buy these out and have someone that's willing to buy that out, you're going to have it this way. But I do believe, yes, I think the way that what we know college football as from a regular season standpoint will change drastically in 2 years with scheduling and the 16 teams. It'll still be fun. It'll still be fine. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be amazing, highly competitive. But I think that you'll eventually move toward, you'll start to see those top 64, top 80 teams and stuff just do their own thing. And then your P5, P6, P7, P8 power conferences have their own league. And then you'll have the SCS have their deal. Or even some of the FCS moves up into that non-power, conference league. And then you have to kind of trickle it down that way. But it's inevitable, Patrick. Like dollars and cents are dollars and cents.
Right.
You can't... Everybody can't compete with Bill Gates and T. Boone Pickens. God rest his soul, back in the day at Oklahoma State. Like these two billionaires that are funding Texas Tech down to Texas Tech and spending a lot of money for that program. Everybody don't have those. So there's gonna come a certain point where the rubber is gonna be the road. Either you're gonna unfortunately have to cut some of these sports to continue to try to compete at that, or you compete at another sport. Like that's what I said. That's why I always think that college basketball is a huge grab, or college baseball could be so advantageous for some of these programs to put themselves on the map and kind of be a staple in that world, in that said sport. I tell you all the time, like what's wrong with Wichita State and the funding that they have with the Koch brothers or the Duke Blue Devils or UNAC or like some of these other programs and stuff that can just St. John's that can just lay claim and create a niche. Gonzaga create a niche to house their own and have a footprint of their own with their said sport. I just don't think everyone can be able to do football like that. The way that you need to, and to be able to shell out the bread that you need to do it.
Yeah, football doesn't operate that way.
Nah, man.
And we have already seen the SEC expand, and things in the modern age do not get smaller, right? They get bigger. I could see a scenario where the SEC and the Big Ten go to 25 teams apiece, and they look at Notre Dame and they say, do you want in on this? Because we're about to shut the gates. So come in with us. And then you have 51 teams or 50 teams, whatever it is, and then they shut it down to the rest. And they just say, we're going to play each other. The Big Ten's already across the entire nation. They've already got USC.
Correct.
They've already got all these places. We're going to do this, and then we're shutting it down. We're going to shut everybody else out. And we'll go to NBC or CBS or Fox or ABC or whomever and say, hey, we have the 50 biggest college football programs in the country, and we want to play our own schedule. And cut everybody else out. What do you say? And those networks are going to say resoundingly, how much?
Like that for real.
And we'll pay for it.
Yeah, man. It's just, inventory. They have the inventory, man. Let's be real.
But if you're like the Texas Techs of the world and the Oklahoma States and some of those, you're probably going to get left at the table.
See, that's the only reason why I think something like Brandon Yormark, who just signed a new 3-year extension, who did I see Brandon Yormark. Brandon Yormark is the AD at Texas A&M. What am I doing?
Fact checking live on the podcast here.
Yeah, Big 12. I want to make sure I got my man's name right. I am tripping. Oh, bring your mouth, so I was right. Okay. I'm thinking Hunter Yurachek. I don't know why I was thinking that, a lot of names. But he's done an amazing job with where that league was when we started having this conference realignment. Coming in, having innovative ways to, the Big 12 is fun. You know what makes cool, what's cool about the Big 12, especially football, from a football standpoint? It's kind of got it's a cool vibe to it, but all the games are competitive. And what I mean by that is we had no clue who was going to win the Big 12 this year. Every game, it was much CTV from the standpoint of it was competitive. So I think the Big 12, and I think it's going to be advantageous for the new Pac-12 once they bring in the new conferences and the programs for them to try to become another power conference to try to basically get as many conferences as possible to join the Big Ten and SEC. I don't think that the SEC and the Big Ten go alone. I think you're going to have the ACC is going to hop in, Big 12. I think there's going to be 4 to 6 conferences to make up what you said.
No, I think they go alone.
You think they go alone?
I think the SEC and the Big. Why would they cut anybody else?
What
in
is
on
it,
this
Patrick?
money?
What is it's 16 and 16?
I believe it's 16 and 16. Yeah, I know the SEC has 16.
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
So again, you said dollars and cents.
Shoot, man.
Why do I keep bringing in more people to have to cut a bigger slice of the pie?
That's fair.
If I'm the one, me and you are generating the most money, we should just team up and go do this together. Who cares about the other conferences?
Yeah.
And you ask, like, Colorado, Texas Tech, if you asked any of those schools, hey, do you want to join the SEC or the Big Ten? It's not even a question.
They're going to be, yes, where do I
They're
sign?
joining. Where do I sign?
Correct.
So, like,
to fill out the landscape of the country.
Yeah, to fill out the landscape of the country. And you're going to have 2 conferences that go about it their own way, and they will call themselves the true national champions. And people be like, well, what happens to the rest of college football? Well, if I'm Greg Sankey, do I care what happens with? I'm not the commissioner of college football. I'm the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference. Right. I care about the 16 teams or however many teams are in my conference. That's what my job to do. If you other conferences, if you can't get on board, if you can't whatever, then you get left at the altar.
Do you do something where you have the going back to kind of the model that I kind of envision in the 2030s, that you have the Big Ten as one division with those 3 divisions, and then the SEC with that, and then
Bingo.
you just bring everybody in.
That's all you do.
You say everybody come in. I can see that. I can see that in that.
And we expand. And so, like, I think you could see an SEC, and again, we're talking for other sports as well. So I think you could see an SEC in the 2030s that has Duke and North Carolina in it.
Sure.
And the SEC now, not only do we dominate football, we dominate college basketball. We already dominate college baseball. The Tennessees of the world and Vanderbilt.
LSU and Texas is in there now.
We already run that sport.
Yep. Softball,
same way. So, like, I think you look at some of the other places and, like, you could see a Duke and you could see a North Carolina and you could see a Miami. And you could see a Virginia Tech. You could see them start to gobble up television markets across the country and kind of divvy it up between them and the Big Ten. Like we said, the Big Ten already stretches all the way to California. They go California to freaking Michigan.
Michigan, yeah.
So, like, that's already most of the country.
Piscataway, New Jersey with Rutgers.
Yeah.
In the Big Ten.
And so I think, a team like Rutgers, who doesn't bring a lot to the table, but they have
because they're in the league and they're getting money. When the Ohio States and the Penn States reach the college football, like, they have to that money, everybody gets it.
Everybody gets it.
So, like, that's the thing. Even during the bowl era where we had bowls and stuff, like, the SEC gets a big fetch. They distribute checks to all of the teams in the league because Alabama's and the Auburns of the world were in bowl games or major bowl games. Like, you got to share the wealth. So, like, you just want to be in the league. Like, I can eat.
For the Rutgers of the world, like, it's a little bit of like, hey, you just had right place, right time, right? You just happen to come along. It's like being born to a rich parent. Sometimes you just get lucky that way and you don't have to bring a lot to the table. But I just foresee these two mega conferences and Notre Dame joining in the mix because that's a huge college football brand. Huge. And they shut the gates off to everybody else and say, go fend for yourselves. Right. And what those other people should do, and we've talked about this, they should play in the spring. You should have spring football that's with major
it would be crazy
games, and you have the Colorados and the Texas Techs of the world playing in April and May. And you just figure people are like, oh, it runs into college basketball. I mean, I think that there's enough sports to go around for people.
Plus, I think, last point here, I think personally, the one thing that's going to really continue to make television from a viewing standpoint viable for the next 20, 25 years is because there's so many avenues for live sports to be able to be on there as far as inventory, digital stations and the YouTube TVs of the world where the Hulus of the world, like, you're going to start seeing all these other companies find themselves into the world of sports because you can't put it everywhere. Like, you got to put it places. You know what I mean?
The SEC and Big Ten could be on the major networks, the NBC and CBS. But who's to say the Big 12 doesn't go to Netflix?
Huge.
And say, hey, Netflix, do you want some Saturday programming? We will play every single game on Netflix.
We go crazy.
I mean, that's just things are different. We talked about this going back to the beginning of the podcast of baseball. Things are changing rapidly. And either you are going to change with it or you will get left behind. There's no middle ground.
It is fascinating, everyone. We are super excited because it's kind of like the ground level. We're all a part of this, like the lovers of college football, and we're like watching this happen in real time because it's legitimately happening in real time, moving and shaking.
And you don't think these conversations like we're having right now are happening in
1,000,000%
closed doors with commissioners?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Greg Sankey's looking at his close confidants and being like,
"That's what makes you great, man. Forest from trees.
I hate cutting people these checks that don't deserve it."
He says it. Greg, I ain't saying you ain't saying that. I'm just saying.
I'm saying that you're saying that. I'm saying you're saying that.
We know you worry about your brand is the most. The SEC is the most important thing to you. Tony Petitti, the Big 12 is the most important. Bring your remark. Big 12 is your best interest for you and your member institutions is all that you care about. How can Jim Phillips at SEC, how can I continue to make my conference viable as we move into the foray of this new age of uncertainty with college football as far as dollars and cents and media rights and whatnot. So, man, I'm excited. It's fascinating. And, this is what we'll continue to talk about as we, continue to move into the summer. We're getting ready for SEC Media Days here in the next couple of months. Being able to get a little R&R before it gets crazy again. But listen, subscribe our podcast on anywhere you can find podcasts that are available. We also have our podcast on our 48 Sports Zone app, Google Play Store, Apple App Store. You can download that. These are uploaded every Thursday. You'll have it around Thursday morning, bright and early, for you to be able to listen to it on your day. We appreciate everyone that's been following. Appreciate everyone's been following on our TikTok shorts and reels on our WAFF TikTok. Go look there. I'm posting some things on our Instagram, my Instagram, Patrick's Instagram, and we'll continue to, as we like to say, flood the streets as we kind of get into the summer and into the fall as well, and some guests and some really cool things going to be coming about also. So with that, for producer Pat, I'm Carl Prather. We'll see you back here next week.